Hey everyone, it's me, Drew Afwalo, host of the Comment Section Show. Come join me and one of my iconic special guests every week on the show as we dive into the dreaded comment sections of our tagged videos and take down the most terrible men on the internet, period. Somehow, they won't go away no matter what I do, no matter how incredibly awful and mean I am to them, but I don't mind doing this work. In fact, if I'm being honest, I think it's God's work. So make sure y'all follow me on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes every Wednesday.
Today on CityCast Philly. When I think of hot dogs, I think of summertime at Citizens Bank Park or grilling up a few in someone's backyard. But I don't necessarily think of Philly. Right now, though, local restaurants are getting creative with hot dogs. But how successful are they, really, at convincing people to swap out their hoagies, cheesesteaks, and pretzels for a hot dog? It's Wednesday, August 14th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Jen Ladd, food reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back, Trenae.
Okay, Jen, last time you were here, you had to convince me that Philly is a great city for breakfast tacos. But now you're back to convince me again that Philly's got a really deep history and has a current hot dog scene that's thriving outside of Citizens Bank Park. Because, as we all know, Dollar Dog Night ended this year. So what's the deal with hot dogs in Philly?
Well, as any Philadelphian or visitor to Philadelphia will know, Philly's a cheesesteak and hoagie town. That's
right.
Our tried and true obsession. That's what they show on every football and baseball broadcast. That said, Philly has a rich hot dog history, even though it's always, been second or third place.
To what, like New York and Chicago, right?
Oh, well, I meant to cheesesteaks and hoagies.
Oh, okay.
but no, I mean, the great hot dog cities, I mean, I'm sure that there's many, many more than Chicago, New York, and LA. But Philadelphia is nowhere near those. And I'm sure that Detroit, there's lots and lots of other cities that would outrank us in their love of hot dogs. But we do have one, even if it's downplayed and an underdog. But the other thing is that this summer, I just noticed a number of chefs and restaurants taking a renewed interest in hot dogs and doing more creative things. That's kind of what set me on the path of reporting the story.
Okay, so before we get into all the details of this reporting, what's your hot dog order? What are you getting on it?
I've got to admit to you today, I typically eat a hot dog, or not just one hot dog, because I think you need more.
You gotta eat two.
Yeah, you need at least two, right? I typically eat hot dogs like once a year.
Okay.
And it is at the ballpark. I can't say that I have been a great lover of hot dogs myself prior to this reporting journey. And I'm also embarrassed to admit that, something that the shame of this grew as I reported more, that I like ketchup on a hot dog.
Oh, no.
I know. It's like... It's shameful, but one of my sources said, I hope you've grown more than to order ketchup on your hot dog or something like that.
See, I'm simple. I like a beef dog, spicy mustard. I'm starting to learn that, I would do the relish, but the chopped onions, those fresh, white onions, sweet onions, any onion, freshly chopped, add that to it now. But I'm kind of like you. I would say, generally maybe specifically hot dogs for me, scream out summer food, barbecues, cookouts, that type of vibe. But I don't think I'm picking up hot dogs, and I'm certainly not, searching for hot dogs in the city. But you're here to tell me that maybe I should.
I don't think there's a better time to eat hot dogs than there is right now in Philadelphia. I think that chefs have gotten really creative with them, and they're having a little moment. So I think get on out there and find some dogs.
When I think of hot dogs, though, I think, they're cheap. Like we said, you can get them at a baseball game,
Mhm.
or you could just grab a pack from the grocery store, grill them up. But you took a different approach. You took a more serious approach and you did some extensive reporting, created this list of the best hot dog spots in the city, suburbs, and down at the shore with food writer Maddie Schweitzer LeMay, who's been on the show before. What have you found to be the essential elements that make a hot dog a really good hot dog?
Well, so when I started reporting this story, I wanted to know how the hot dogs got made. So I was lucky enough to be invited into the kitchen along with a videographer and a photographer
Nice.
at Royal Tavern in Bella Vista to see the chef there, Nick Macri, making hot dogs from scratch.
Wow.
So we watched the whole process from, hunks of beef and pork go in the grinder and through the grinder, and then they go into the buffalo chopper and they get emulsified with spices and shaved ice and salt, and then they get stuffed into casing and linked, and from there they get smoked and hung to dry, and that's all that happens in a hot dog. And I also got to go to Rikers Prime Meats in Fox Chase, where they make German wieners and a zillion other kinds of sausage. A German wiener is just a fancier term for a hot dog. They're really the same thing. So yeah, I wanted to understand how the hot dogs got made.
Were there any similarities?
Oh yes, I mean all hot dogs are smoked sausage at heart, right? Like a hot dog is a type of sausage, and they use different smoke. But they all have to be emulsified. That's really like what gives hot dogs their snap.
Mm-hmm.
And snap is one of those essential qualities in a hot dog. And so is the smoke.
And how long does it take to actually make a hot dog?
Well, I think that depends on the batch size. But for instance, the process that we shot on video at Royal Tavern probably took under 2 hours. But that didn't capture the smoking process. So the smoking process, I think at Rikers, they smoke them for like 90 minutes and then they hang, but they have to hang overnight actually. So, it's definitely like a 2-day process to make a batch of hot dogs. And it's very labor intensive. To make these from scratch, most restaurants are not doing that. And that's why it was really special to capture that process.
Okay, so if it's kind of like an intricate process to actually make hot dogs from scratch, and some places are like, nah, we'll just get our hot dogs elsewhere. Where are Philly hot dog sellers getting their hot dogs?
Well, some places are getting them from Dietz and Watson, which is a local deli case king.
Yeah,
right.
We know that. Yeah,
right there in Tacony. And other places are getting them from New York. They're using the Sabrett brand of hot dogs. Other places are getting them from a Reading, Pennsylvania producer called Burke's. There's a Jewish deli in Cherry Hill, Radden's Delicatessen, that gets them from Vienna Beef in Chicago, which I heard from a reader is like really the key to a genuine Chicago dog. So they're getting them from all over, but each hot dog stand or vendor typically has preferences, brand loyalty to different makers. Yes.
So, Jen, let me ask you this. When did the hot dog come to the streets of Philly?
Well, I think hot dogs have been here for over a century. One of the most famous shops of Philadelphia's hot dog history is Levis, which was at 6th and South. And they were the originators of the hot dog fish cake combo, which is like an incredibly classic Philadelphia thing.
So you get a hot dog and a fish cake?
Yeah, and a fish cake is actually, it's deceptively named because it's mostly potato. But
oh, okay.
So think your standard hot dog with like a fish cake smashed on top. And to make it even more traditionally Philadelphian, you'd get pepper hash. Think like a vinegary coleslaw. But I want to give credit to Jennifer Zavala, the owner and chef at Wana Tamale, for telling me about the hot dog fish cake, which you can still get at Johnny's Hots on Delaware Avenue. And apparently you can get it at Pat's Cheesesteak.
Interesting. I did not know that. More on Philly's hot dog scene and more recommendations from Jen after the break.
The land down under has never been easier to reach. United Airlines has more flights between the U.S. and Australia than any other U.S. airline, so you can fly nonstop to destinations like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Explore dazzling cities, savor the very best of Aussie cuisine, and get up close and personal with the wildlife. Who doesn't want to hold a koala? Go to united.com/Australia to book your adventure.
Okay, so let's talk about some places where we can actually get these hot dogs. You mentioned a few before the break. How are bars approaching hot dogs?
The bar that comes to mind first is Ortlieb's, which is in Northern Liberties, and it's a venue and a bar that used to serve tacos as their go-to food item.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing that for years, but during the pandemic, as a one-off, they served hot dogs, and they really loved it. And I saw the kitchen at Ortlieb's. It's about the size of a closet. So the fact that they were making tacos out of there was pretty impressive.
Right.
So they recently switched to hot dogs because they thought, there's not really a hot dog bar in Philadelphia. So now they are serving this kind of obscure brand of hot dogs called Snap-O-Razzos that are all natural casings, and it's a high quality dog. And they're writing words on the dogs with ketchup and mustard, and they have a pickle dog served on like a split pickle, and they have a Chicago dog and a taco dog and all sorts of, toppings to dress it up. Or you can just get your basic, I think it was a $3.50 dog, which, who can say no to that?
Right. Jen, you also report that there are other hot dog stands in our area. Tell me about the ones that you went to.
I don't think Philly has a great variety of hot dog stands traditionally.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most classically hot dog centric places that you could go in the Philadelphia area is Jimmy John's Pipin' Hot Sandwiches on Wilmington Pike in Westchester. And that has been around since 1940. You're not there for a sandwich, you're there for a Frankfurter. And they use a custom-made Dietz and Watson dog, and it's a very old school place. No frills. They have like model trains there. And apparently their busiest time of year is between Thanksgiving and Christmas time because people go back to get like a nostalgia trip. But there's a lot of modern places in Philly. Lucky's Last Chance is a go-to spot for hot dogs.
And that's in Manayunk, right?
They have 3 locations. They have a location in Manayunk, one in, I think it's technically Wissahickon, and also in Queen Village. And they're very famous for their burgers, which are like big and extravagantly topped. But their hot dogs, one of the owners there absolutely loves hot dogs and said that Lucky's was intended to be kind of a hot dog joint originally, but they couldn't find the New England style split top rolls that they wanted. So they opened with burgers.
The transition.
But the other thing is that some of my colleagues lamented that Philadelphia doesn't know how to make a good hot dog bun, and that we either use like hoagie rolls, which, don't make sense for people who are really into hot dogs, or, we're just using some generic, potato roll, something like that. But there's actually some really creative hot dog vehicles in Philadelphia, including Miller's Twist in the Reading Terminal Market. You can get like a pretzel dog.
Oh.
So it's like a buttery pretzel wrapped, the dough is wrapped and baked around a hot dog. At Braden's Delicatessen in Cherry Hill, which I mentioned earlier, you can get a bagel dog. So it's like a homemade bagel dough wrapped around a hot dog.
Okay, these are like pigs in a blanket, right?
Basically, except like, and actually Braden's has like a giant Frank in a blanket. But, and then Okie Dokie Donuts on Snyder Ave near Broad Street has a donut dog. And it's not wrapped around, but it's like a handmade donut bun. They also have a corn dog donut, which actually is like a dog made into a circle, and then they fry the donut. I don't know how they do it.
It sounds like a lot of calories. Okay, so if we don't know how to do the bread right, like what is like the perfect bread for a hot dog?
That's a good question, Trinae. At Royal Tavern's last day of their of their hot dog special, which was called Dog Days of Summer, and it lasted all July. They had homemade milk buns. They had like a Japanese dog. I can't remember the technical name of it, but and that was delicious. I think it's a mild bun. A lot of places, some places use a brioche bun, some places use a sweet potato bun.
Oh, sweet potato. Mm.
There's the split top. There's the split top kind of like bread slice style bun, and then at a West Philly food truck, the truck's name is a truck called Sandoz. They're also using a soft pretzel split in half horizontally, and then using a butterflied hot dog and sandwiching that. So like that's like also cool.
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big believer in hot dog rules. You're gonna find some people who feel very strongly about that, but I am not one of those people.
Okay, well, tell me, what did the hot dog experts tell you are those rules?
Well, Nick Macri at Royal Tavern sent me the USDA regulations.
Oh, like what's considered actually a hot dog?
Well, yeah, I mean, they can't be like more than 30% fat. That there's a cap on how many like binders and fillers and things like that they can use. Nick's feelings were that like a hot dog can only be so thick, like it really can't be an inch would be like the max it could be. And then after a certain point, you're getting into like sausage territory or bratwurst or something like that.
Like kielbasa even?
So, but like they can be beef or pork. There was one place at the shore, Maui's Doghouse, that uses beef, pork, and veal in their mix.
Jen, earlier you mentioned Chicago, New York, LA, and Detroit as more hot dog cities. What could Philly learn from those true hot dog cities that, we could adopt?
It's a hard one for me to answer. I think that people just have more enthusiasm about hot dogs there. But I do think that you see the enthusiasm rising around hot dogs this summer, and who knows if that'll go away in the fall. But for instance, Irwin's, the restaurant at the top of the Bach building on the other side from the Bach bar, they are having a cookout on September 8th that features like 25 really notable chefs in Philadelphia all making hot dogs.
Wow, this is exciting.
There's just been so much energy around hot dogs this summer, and I don't know if that's because of Dollar Dog Night getting canceled. We certainly saw like an uptick of bars offering dollar dogs in the stead of the Phillies selling them, but the enthusiasm has gone beyond that, and I think that if that was sustained, perhaps Philadelphia would one day, hold a candle perhaps to some of the lesser great hot dog cities of America. People really do love hot dogs. I've never gotten so many emails from people as I have off of this story. But I think that there's only so much room for dedicated hot dog shops in Philadelphia. I think that they have a place on bar menus they really could for a long time, because a hot dog it's filling, if it's especially like a bigger dog or a longer dog. They can be really fun if you put interesting toppings on them.
For sure.
Or make an interesting bun. And they are affordable. So I think that they make a lot of sense as like a bar snack, or a bar meal. But I don't know how a restaurant could sustain itself on hot dogs alone. I think that that's a hard premise.
I would agree with that. We have an obvious history with hot dogs, but will it last past the summer? I don't know. I'm thinking of a hot dog pun to add here. That was Jen Ladd, food reporter at the Philadelphia Inquirer. Jen, thank you so much for teaching me and convincing me about the city's hot dog scene.
Thanks for having me, Trinae.
Check out all the hot dog recommendations we mentioned in the show and around the city, and even down at the shore. We'll have a link in the show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode about Philly hot dogs, tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.